Hey, soul friend. I think you should go through life as a secret undercover agent. I recently saw the film Dhurandhar, and it has quickly become an obsession and something that I cannot stop thinking, processing, and talking about. Dhurandhar is a Bollywood Indian spy thriller action film that is directed by Aditya Dhar, and it's starring the magnetic, charismatic Ranveer Singh. And this film has penetrated every single part of my soul and my spirit. And I truly am obsessed. I think the last time I was this obsessed with a film franchise was with John Wick. And a lot of people might not think a meditation teacher is obsessed with action films, but here we are. I'm a big cinephile, and film to me has always been this beautiful breeding ground of wisdom and dharma. There is so much that you can learn about life through film, and film to me is the medium and the creative vessel that I learn the most about life from. And Dhurandhar is just super loaded with so much dharma and wisdom. And today I'm going to be breaking down 5 things that I've learned from the film Dhurandhar that I know can really benefit how you move through your life and through your business. If I had to describe this film in one word, it would be, as the kids say these days, aura maxing. It's just dripping in swag and aura and style, and there's just so much bravado in the film that has kind of given me secondhand swag and making me feel some type of way. I have been going on my walks and post meditations listening to the soundtrack, just feeling like unstoppable. There's a ton of gangsters, smoking, fresh action sequences, explosions. Just the film is so visceral and raw and cinematic in so many ways, and just feels so sensorial and yet grounded in the emotion of it all. If you haven't seen the film Dhurandhar, here's a really quick breakdown of what the story is about. The Dhurandhar follows Jaskarit Singh Rangi, a raw Indian intelligence operative who is sent deep undercover into Karachi, Pakistan, to infiltrate and dismantle an extremist terror network from within. He becomes Hamza Ali Mazari. Hamza is an Indian agent, an asset that is deep undercover in Karachi, Pakistan, and he is undercover for a decade, and he goes deep into the underbelly of the gangs and the politics so that he can rise through the ranks, and eventually he is at the very top of the food chain and starts to completely dismantle the terror network. There were so many parts where I covered my eyes because there was so much gore and so much violence in the film, but I still found so much depth in the storytelling, in these unforgettable characters, and in this world that was fully built and realized by Aditya, the director. So let's jump into it. Before we dive in, I just want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Aisha. I'm a meditation teacher and host of this podcast, Monsoon Season. Monsoon Season is all about exploring consciousness and creativity through the lens of vulnerability. I truly believe the most beautiful and attractive and sexy thing about each of us as human beings is our vulnerability. My mission is really simple. It's to give you permission to be vulnerable so you can express yourself to the fullest and serve humanity with your unique gifts. Take a second to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment on one thing that resonates with you. And if you'd like to go deeper in the work that I'm doing, I spend most of my time on Substack, and I write a weekly newsletter and offer guided meditations. So feel free to check out my Substack and subscribe to the newsletter. The first super loaded dharma in this film is one of my favorite quotes and something that gets introduced to us very early on. The main character, Hamza's handler, Sandyal, is So he says this very, very early on during their agent training. Our most lethal weapons are vigilance and patience. Your goal isn't to slip into Pakistan, your goal is to dominate the entire jungle. So vigilance is not paranoia. Vigilance is having extreme radical presence and awareness. So in the context of this film, Hamza, when he's undercover and infiltrating these gangs, his superpower is reading every single room and all the details and the information in each room he's in without allowing anything to be shown emotionally on his face. You become really powerful when you are the person in the room that notices everything but shows nothing. And then patience is not just about waiting. It's, are you willing to play the long game and just sit back and observe and be still when every cell in your body is telling you to act and to go and to react? These are two ingredients that every single training agent is instilled with. And it's something that I think we as creative people and just beings in this world truly, truly need to remember that everything, every mission, every dream, every vision that we set for ourselves, can we have razor sharp vigilance and patience for ourselves. Like Hamza, when he starts his mission, he spends 2 years training. And then once he gets into Pakistan, Hamza works at a juice shop making smoothies for a whole damn year before he even gets to even speak to one of his allies about what their plan is and how they're going to infiltrate the gangs. What's so interesting is that we just live in this culture that is so deeply desperate for the immediate gratification of everything. And we have lost touch with the reality that when we set out to do something and to have a dream fulfilled or have a lifelong goal of pursuing our vision, that it takes so much vigilance and patience to get there. And so we're inundated with so much noise every single day and all these people who are celebrating milestones and things like that, that we lose touch with the fact that it takes so much patience, it takes so much vigilance and time to really get to where we truly want to go, to be able to own and dominate the jungle, quote unquote, of whatever it is you're trying to pursue. Takes so much of that. And it's a really beautiful reminder to not lose sight of that, and that those two things are lethal weapons. They're not just these qualities that are nice to have, but the film describes them as lethal weapons. The person who is able to have patience and vigilance is the most dangerous animal in the entire room. As I build this podcast and create and put out things that I want to see in the world, I constantly forget and lose sight of these qualities. And I think sometimes I fall into and backslide into white knuckling and pushing and trying to make every single moment count. But it's just a fool's game to do that. This film is 2 parts, and both films almost run 4 hours, which is wild. And the first film, Hamza, who's played by Ranveer Singh, is pretty much taking a back seat. He's the central character and the main character of the film, but in terms of his presence and his aura on camera, he is not the one who has the most space, and he's not filling up the screens. He's playing his role so subtly and allowing the other characters and all the other villains to really take up the scene, and he's waiting quietly for his moment. And the second film is really where you see him explode. There's this really cool theory called the lion theory that I first heard from Novel, and he basically shares that the lion theory is really simple. Live your life like a lion. A lion spends most of its day resting, conserving its energy, and really just waiting. And from the outside, it looks like the lion's just chilling, not doing anything, is lazy. But when it's hungry and when it's ready to hunt, it explodes and really takes advantage of the opportunity at the exact moment that it counts. You can apply that to your life. Don't try to spend every single day grinding away and trying to make every moment count. What's important is conserving your energy, resting, and knowing when is the opportune moment to strike and when to really dial up the energy and to go after that thing and then be able to come back and restore yourself. If we truly waited with vigilance and patience for the right moment instead of trying to make every moment the right one, our life will feel completely different. There will be so much more spaciousness and so much more freedom in each moment. The second thing is sacrifice is the highest duty. So, the heart of this film, a lot of it is to do with being a true patriot. And this particular Indian asset that is infiltrating Pakistan, he knows that he is not going to be celebrated or decorated in any way or given any sort of accolades or parades for his heroicism. Yet he still is about the mission, yet he understands what he has to do and what's at hand. And that is so powerful. I think so many of us forget that sacrifice is part of the work, whether it's the creative work that we're doing or the things that we want in our lives, if it's family, if it's business, whatever it is, it always comes at a sacrifice. And I think so much of our generation feels like afraid of sacrifice and we want it all. We want to be able to have it all at all times. And it doesn't work that way. Every season comes with certain sacrifices, and sacrifice happens in such subtle ways. Like we must sacrifice things for what we want. When we are choosing to sit and meditate, we're sacrificing scrolling on our phones or doing something else entertaining for a moment of stillness, a moment of reflection. When we are sacrificing our Saturday nights to edit something that we really are proud of in a project that we're really inspired by, there are so many ways we must make sacrifices. And instead of seeing them as a negative thing, it's just, to me, such a heroic thing to sacrifice and not tell people about it and not make a show of it. Understand that the work itself, the sacrifice for the work itself, is a huge gift. And I don't think we talk about that enough. It's so beautiful. I've been seeing a lot of videos online of people documenting themselves doing random moments of kindness or charitable things to strangers and stuff like that. And it always leaves this weird taste in my mouth because I just think that the world would be a better place if we did good things and didn't have to tell people about it. If we made those sacrifices in silence, there is something that is so holy and so sacred about that. And it stings because we do want the credit. We want people to see that it's hard and that it's a battle a lot of days to do the things that we're doing. But there is something in that humility that I think makes a person a true hero. I sometimes have to remind myself that I don't have to tell people and keep count and track of every single thing that I'm doing so that I can get credit for it. But can I just show up and do the work and know that this sacrifice is part of my mission? And that is a beautiful thing. So I ask myself this constantly, especially on days when nothing is performing, nothing is growing, I've plateaued, and I have to choose whether or not to keep going anyway. I ask myself these two questions. What are you still doing in service of recognition? And what would shift if the act itself became enough? One of my absolute favorite scenes in this film is so subtle and so small, and insignificant probably to most people and something that I haven't heard people talk about at all. And it is about a cup of chai. When Hamza first gets to Pakistan, he has an undercover ally who he works with, who is the owner of this juice shop. His name is Alam. And Alam takes Hamza to this chai vendor shop in the neighborhood that he loves, and they share Kashmiri chai or noon chai, which is this pink colored chai that that area is very famous for. And he takes Hamza to this chai shop and says, like, most people don't like this chai because it's has a salty bitterness to it. But Alam says that he loves this chai because it reminds him of home, because the water back in his village at home had a salty taste to it. And so when Hamza goes to take the sip of chai, he spits it out immediately because it has salt and bitterness to it. And they start laughing. And then later on, big spoiler alert here, Hamza ends up getting backed into a corner, and Hamza has to take Alam's life because he is trying to protect his cover. And he knows that if Alam gets taken by Pakistani officials, that he will be suffering and tortured to death. So killing him in this moment and shooting him in front of everyone is not only to protect his cover, but a huge act of compassion. But he ends up killing his friend and his only ally on enemy territory. After he shoots Alam, there's no dialogue. He ends up going back to this chai shop and he sits down and has that same cup of Kashmiri chai, and he orders two, one for him and one for his fallen friend. And he's just sitting there in tears drinking this chai, reminiscing about his friend. I share the scene because there's so many angles to like really the emotion and the vulnerability is there's just so much going on in this scene. It's so beautiful. It's so crushing in so many ways. But what it reminds me of is that there is emptiness in a cup of chai. The chai doesn't mean anything. That chai to most people is undrinkable, is something that is bitter and tastes terrible. But to Alam is a feeling of home, is a reminder and a taste of his village when he's thousands of miles away pretending to be someone else. And Hamza, who also didn't like this chai, now is sitting there drinking it, toasting his fallen friend. And it's become this beautiful encapsulation of his love and his adoration for his friend and his comrade. There's this Buddhist concept of shunyata, which is Sanskrit for emptiness. The cup of chai is empty of a nature. We are the ones who are pouring meaning into it. Hamza is pouring meaning into it in that moment because it's reminding him of his friend. And Alam was pouring meaning into it because it reminded him of home. A song that completely shatters your heart might do absolutely nothing for another person. Cilantro was something that my mom as a kid would mash with a mortar and pestle and mix into our rice, and we call it toina pata porta, which is just like a mashed up cilantro paste, and we mixed it into our basmati rice and it would turn the rice green. And that to me is so significant of my childhood and a moment of simplicity in my life. And to some people, cilantro tastes like soap. Both of these things are true, and it's so important for us to hold these truths at the same time. And how I want you to understand this is that this works in your creative work as well. You are the one pouring significance into the work that you're doing, and it's not always going to resonate with people. Not everyone will be able to taste it, and it's not a failure if people don't resonate or don't taste it. Our job is to simply share from our heart and to the best of our ability, share why it matters to us. But trust me when I say the people who do resonate will pull up a chair and come sit alongside us and sip on that salty chai. I am not gonna lie to you, I was never a fan of Ranveer Singh. I kind of found his braggadocious energy, or his, like, sometimes just the films that I have seen him in, the more commercial films where he's dancing and he's wearing obnoxious flamboyant outfits, just didn't resonate with me. And so I didn't watch Dhurandhar for a long time because I was passing judgment that Ranveer was, too maximalist, and his style was just not something I resonated with. But when I saw this film, the quietness and how he played this character, how he completely disappeared into the character of Hamza and played this so grounded and so subtle and so quiet, it is so powerful because it reminds me that we're all playing characters. We're all empty. Just like I share about the chai, we are also that cup of chai. We are empty and we have constructed our own identity. What I take away from those moments, those quiet moments where we see cracks in his armor, but no one else can see, the characters in the story and the plot don't see it, but we as the audience can see when he is by himself, and when he's eating, with his hands on Eid, and he's shedding a tear because maybe he feels so far away from home in this foreign place, celebrating a holiday and celebrating a religion that he doesn't even, believe in himself. But these like small moments we see him vulnerable is the very thing that makes us fall in love with him and makes us root for him as the hero, as the main character. And I want to share this because there's so many of us that are expressing ourselves in the world and are trying to keep it together, keep it so buttoned up and polished, and not want people to see our weakness or our vulnerability. But that is the very thing that is the thing that connects us and is the fascia that connects you to another human being. That's the connective tissue that connects us. And we completely miss that. In Hamza's life, like, if he was being vulnerable his with the other gangsters and with the other characters, that would be a liability. That would get him killed because people would use his vulnerability against him. And sometimes as humans, we still move and operate like that. But the truth is that the audience and the person that we're trying to connect with, they want us to be vulnerable because that's what makes us really fall in love. When you think about any sort of superhero film or your favorite comic book character, they always have a vulnerable spot. They always have a kryptonite or an Achilles heel because it is embedded in the hero's journey that those things are the things that allow us to root for people. And this is true for anyone creating publicly in this world. Your openness won't always be safe, and people will misread it, project onto it, occasionally use it against you. But it is the only thing that transforms an audience into a community, consumers into people who are genuinely pulling for you. No one wants to root for the agent that has no chinks in their armor because then that person is just a function. No one wants to root for the function. They want to root for a human being. And a human being is only visible through the cracks. So allow people in. Show us the cracks in your armor. Show us who you are and all the kind of stickiness of you, because that is going to make us fall in love with you more and more and root for you and wants to invest in what you have going on. At the end of Dhurandhar 2, The Revenge, the final scene, spoiler alert, is that Jaskirat, aka Hamza, he ends up coming back to his village, and he's standing outside his mother's house, seeing his mother and sister kind of just going about their normal lives. The last scene is us seeing him standing between his two worlds. He just come back and finished his 10-year mission as Hamza, and now he was hoping to go back and be his old self, his past self, just Girat. But he's looking at his family and realizing that he is no one. That this whole time he was hoping to come back home, that there was no identity to go back to. He was no longer just Girat, he was no longer Hamza, he was just no one. A year ago, I went on my first meditation retreat, and my heart teacher, my meditation teacher, Hector, he said this to us as we were going into our silence and our meditation. He said, the goal is to be no one. And I understood this in a very different, visceral way when I saw this film, because I realized that when we're seeing this character like grapple with these two worlds and he's just living in between, we can see it as this devastation and this grief, or we can see it as he is truly free. And the film does this like insane job of just showing like the ambiguity of that feeling. Only he knows what that feeling really is. And we're like left in this liminal space. There are two ways of becoming no one. One is having your identity stripped away from you, the way he had Jaskirat stripped away from him to become Hamza, to become that warrior and that agent to fight for his country. He had all of his identity and his past self stripped away from him. And then there's another way to become no one, and it's allowing it to dissolve, allowing us to consciously let go of identity so that we can live more freely, more fluidly. The reason why we suffer as humans is because of identity. And so much of my spiritual journey has been to allow myself to let go of all these layers of identity, to let go of who I think I am so that I could fully step into who I can be and what is the potential of me, which is infinite. And the same goes for you. Like, you might be stuck in this idea that I am this, I do this, and I work here, and I have this job title, and these are the relational identity connectors that I have. I'm, a wife, or I'm a husband, and I'm a daughter, a son, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, and a friend, and a this or a that, a Pilates person, a this person, a martial artist, or whatever. And the more we can dissolve those identities into nothing, into becoming no one, as Arya Stark would say, the power that you can channel and wield is infinite. Do not be afraid of becoming no one. We live in this culture that is obsessed. And I know because I have been a victim of this obsession for so much of my life. We are obsessed to become someone, to become something significant, to become someone extraordinary that does extraordinary things. But what if the most extraordinary thing is just to be no one and to live your life as freely as possible? That is freedom that cannot ever be taken from you. And it's a freedom that truly is steeped in inner peace that no one can give you but yourself. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Monsoon Season. I so appreciate your support of this podcast. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be seen, and may you be loved.